When you think of Starbucks, what's the first word that pops into your head? For a long, long time, it was probably something like unstoppable, a global coffee giant, right? And for a while there, you were absolutely right. But today the picture is, well, it's a lot more complicated. We're going to dive into the central paradox of Starbucks, how a company can be a digital pioneer and, at the exact same time, an icon smack in the middle of a full-blown identity crisis.
So, to really get what's going on, you've got to understand just how massive these guys are. In 2023 alone, Starbucks pulled in nearly $36 billion in net revenue. I mean, just let that number sink in. That's not just a lot of money, it's staggering. It puts them in a whole different league. And look, this wasn't some recent fluke, right? This chart lays it all out. This is their revenue over the last 2 decades, just a steady, relentless climb, year after year. This isn't just a company. It's an empire built on decades of sustained, aggressive growth. And all that money? Well, it translates to them being physically everywhere. By the end of 2022, this was the number of stores they had around the globe. Over 35,000 locations in 80 different countries. They're literally on every corner. So how on earth did they get this big? Well, the answer, which might surprise you, has as much to do with technology as it does with coffee. And that brings us to their secret weapon, something they called the digital flywheel. So back in 2017, Starbucks made a huge decision. They decided they weren't just a coffee shop with an app anymore. They launched this whole strategy to seamlessly merge what happens in the store with what happens on your phone. The goal? To basically become a tech company that just happens to sell coffee. And you know what? It worked like a charm. Okay, so think about how this works for you. The flywheel was built on 4 pillars. First, the rewards get you hooked, right? You download the app and keep coming back for those free drinks. Then personalization kicks in, using all your data to tempt you with new drinks you might like. Payment becomes totally frictionless, and then the real game changer, mobile ordering, so you can just skip the entire line. See how that works? Each part just feeds right into the next, creating this perfect, powerful loop. And by getting this flywheel spinning perfectly, Starbucks built a moat around their business that no one else could cross. I mean, they had more customer data, more loyalty, and a way more convenient experience than anyone else. For years, they just looked completely untouchable. Okay, so that all sounds pretty amazing, right? A tech-driven, coffee-selling juggernaut. Which leads us to the big question of the day. If they're this big, this rich, and this technologically savvy, why is Starbucks suddenly in so much trouble? Well, it's because a lot of their biggest problems right now aren't actually coming from their competitors. No, these are cracks that started to form from the inside. And weirdly enough, they're often a direct result of their own wild success. And this is where it gets really ironic. That digital flywheel, it actually worked too well. Their mobile ordering system became so popular that it completely overwhelmed the stores. You had this flood of digital orders coming in, creating total chaos for the baristas and these massive log jams at the pickup counter. Just how bad did it get? Well, get this. In early 2024, 1 out of every 8 customers who ordered on the app just gave up. They left without their drink because the wait was just too long. Think about that. Their greatest technological strength was literally driving customers away. But that focus on just speed, it had another, maybe even bigger cost. See, Starbucks was built on this idea of being the third place, that cozy, comfortable spot between your home and your office. But as the stores were redesigned to handle all these mobile orders, customers really started to feel a shift. The comfy chairs disappeared, and that warm, welcoming vibe, it was replaced by something that, as this one customer put it, felt clinical and uninviting. And the problems from within, they don't stop there. The company is also grappling with ongoing tensions with its union. There's this growing feeling among customers that the prices are just getting out of control. And, critically, they've really struggled to adapt their winning formula for key international markets, especially China. I mean, each one of these is a serious crack in the foundation. So you've got all this stuff happening on the inside. And then, at the very same time, a perfect storm of external pressures starts hitting Starbucks from literally every direction. And you can see this competitive threat crystal clear in China, which is their second biggest market. This local company, Luckin Coffee, just exploded onto the scene. And their whole strategy is everything Starbucks isn't. Luckin is tech-first, super affordable, and built for pure speed. They've already blown past Starbucks in the number of stores, basically by attacking their 2 biggest weaknesses, price and convenience. And it's not just Luckin. Starbucks is facing a perfect storm of other pressures too. You've got global economic slowdowns and inflation, which makes a $5 latte a lot harder for people to justify. Consumers themselves have changed. They now value speed and convenience over almost everything else. And then you throw in rising geopolitical tensions, and you have a recipe for some really unpredictable challenges.
And those tensions, they're not just abstract ideas. They have very real, painful consequences. Take the Middle East, for example. Boycotts tied to the war in Gaza, which were driven by what people saw as the company's political leanings, hit sales so hard that the franchisee in the region had to lay off 2,000 people. It's just a brutal reminder of how a giant global brand is also incredibly vulnerable to global events.
So, okay, when you add it all up, the problems on the inside and the storm brewing on the outside, it becomes really clear that Starbucks is at a massive crossroads. They're facing a fundamental identity crisis about who they even want to be anymore.
And that really gets to the heart of the paradox, doesn't it? The company that practically invented the third place is now a leader in drive-thrus and mobile orders. The brand that sold a premium, cozy experience is now in a street fight with low-cost competitors. And it leaves us with one final, crucial question. Can Starbucks really be both? Or, in trying to be everything to everyone, is it going to lose the very thing that made it an icon in the first place?